Today's video is brought to you by webdesignernews.com, which is a constantly updating source of different articles and websites for web designers and design in general. And there are a ton of different things linked here for you to go in and check out. So no matter what your flair in design is, you'll probably find some really interesting news and articles here to check out. And you can also star different articles to go in and remember. So there's a My Favorite section. So if at a later time you go in there, it'll save everything that you have favorited. So it's very easy to access articles that you've saved in the past. So once again, a huge thank you to Web Designer News for sponsoring this video, so be sure to thank them as well by checking them out. In this tutorial, I'm going to be going over how to draw an icon inside Adobe Illustrator, and for this particular tutorial, I'm going to be doing an airplane icon, but these ideas and concepts should apply to anything that you want to make an icon of. So even if you don't want to make an airplane, for example, you can just swap out your reference image to something else that's more applicable to what you're trying to do, and you should still be able to listen into these general tips and ideas, and hopefully get a few good ideas of how to turn your image into an icon. So right here, I have my basic working image that I quickly drew off of this airplane, and that's going to be recreating here. And off to the side here, I have a little bit thicker stroked version of the airplane, as well as a fully silhouetted version of the airplane. So these are more typical of what you might expect in an icon. And just something to think about when you're thinking about making an icon is that the format is almost always a square. So try to think of images that'll work well within a square format, because that's just the way the bounding box works for them. And also very simple images tend to work the best when you're dealing with an icon, because the really small or complex details will tend to get lost as most icons are viewed very small. So things like on this airplane image right here, there's these elements on the wings or the rudders on the wings that I could add into this, but at a very, very small scale, they might be very hard to recognize or differentiate from the rest of the airplane. So in this case, I just thought simple is better and I left them off. If you're dealing with a different kind of image, just try to think of a way that you can simplify it as best you can while still giving the overall idea or characteristic of that item. That's just a good way to go about working inside this. And of course, if you want to see how your thing will work inside a box, you can always select the rectangle tool, which is the M key on your keyboard, or just go over the shape tool here and make sure a rectangle tool is selected. And you can draw a rectangle around your object and make sure that it's going to look good within this square. In this case, this is a pretty thick stroke, but you get the general idea of how this particular airplane will work with inside a box. Alternatively, you can go to File and then Document Setup and go to Edit Artboards. And then under the width and the height, in this case, this one is 612 point by 792 point. You can just make this a square by making these two values the same and hitting Enter once you change that, and then hit Escape to get out of it. And if I were to move this airplane back into this square right here for my artboard, you can see how this square will look. So I'm actually going to start right now recreating this airplane that I drew previously and just show you the way that I did it, and hopefully you'll get some good ideas of how you can go ahead and do this yourself. So I'm just going to pull this off to the bottom here and start redrawing this. And I have my reference image right here. It's on my layers palette under a layer I named image, and it's locked. So I'm going to unlock this layer quick so I can show you how to drop your image in very easily. You just go to File, and then you want to go to Place right here near the middle. And once you go to File and then Place, you can click that and then navigate to a folder where you have an image saved and just go ahead and click Place. And then you can just click on your artboard here to bring this image inside, and you can orient it however you see fit by using the little rotate toolbar here. And if you hold down Shift, it'll make sure it's on a perfect either 45 or 90 degree angle as it rotates around. And then you might want to hit the embed button up here near the top if you want to embed this image into the Illustrator document, so that if you ever delete that image from your folder or wherever it's stored gets moved, something like that, you won't have to worry about losing your image. And then I tend to just lock this layer down so I don't accidentally click it when I'm drawing my stuff, and then hit the New Page button and create a new layer, which is where I have all these new airplanes that I've drawn off to the side here. So on this new layer that I've created here to draw my airplane on, I'm just going to change my stroke color right here from white to a black by selecting black right here. And I'm actually not going to have a fill at all. So the fill is the one on the upper left, and then the stroke is the one on the lower right. So by clicking the fill here, there's a little box that says none. It looks like a white box with a red diagonal line going through it. Just make sure your fill looks like that, or hit that button down here to make that happen. And then your stroke will be in the foreground if you click that, and it's on the lower right. So right now I have a black stroke with no fill. And I'm going to go over to my toolbar here, and where the rectangle shape is, I'm going to click and hold, and then I'm going to select the ellipse tool. So I'm going to draw the nose shape of this airplane right here. And also you might want to turn on your smart guides. They're just super useful. The shortcut for smart guides is Control U on a PC if they're not on already, or Command U on a Mac. So as I highlight over different areas on this particular airplane drawing here, you can see it draws like a path, or it shows me when I'm on an anchor. It's in green. It might be a little bit hard to see on your screen, but it lets you know when you're over certain parts of your drawing, and it helps you know when things are intersecting a bit better. It'll just be useful as we continue going on here to have that turned on. So I'm going to click and hold Shift and then just draw a circle. Holding Shift just makes sure that this circle maintains a perfect circular shape. If I don't hold Shift when I'm drawing the circle, you can tell it doesn't maintain a perfect circular shape, which actually for this nose shape isn't necessarily a bad thing. If you want to draw your nose shape this way instead of the way that I'm going to do it, you can certainly do that. But I just want to show you a cool little trick with circles that you can use to make a teardrop shape with them. But I'm just going to highlight over this circle right here and then make sure my stroke window is open, because we're going to use that a little bit to change the stroke size. And that's under Window and then Stroke near the bottom here. And from that, I'm going to change the weight to something a little bit thicker, like let's say 3 points. I'm also going to make the corner rounded, just because that's the way that I want my shapes to look overall. You don't have to make your corners rounded. It's just a way to, for example, on this wing, how these corners have a nice round shape. If I turn that off to a square, they're now pointed instead of rounded. It's really a personal preference in how you want things to look. But I'm actually going to use the direct selection tool, which is the white arrow, and then I'm going to highlight over the top point right here. A circle by default has these 4 points, so I just want to select the top one. It's kind of a guessing game about where it is, but you know it's generally in the top area, so you can just kind of highlight over that and select it. And I'm going to hold Shift as I drag this up and create my own nose cone shape. So right here, I'm just trying to emulate the shape of this airplane. I'm not too worried about being perfect here. It doesn't really matter. I just want to get somewhat close. And why I held Shift, for example, if I select this bottom point, if I click and start dragging without holding Shift, it doesn't make it on a perfect vertical line, which is something I wanted to do. Or if I hold Shift, it's always on a perfect vertical line, unless I go way too far off to the side here, in which case it starts going off on a 45-degree angle. But if you do a pretty good job keeping it vertical, that holding Shift will make it stay perfectly vertical for you. And I'm actually just going to highlight over this bottom point right here and delete it, since I don't need it for my airplane shape, because the fuselage right here is going to end up overlapping that. I'm actually just going to make this a little bit smaller by holding Shift as I scale this down. I'm also holding Alt or Option on a Mac to make it scale down from the center point, which just kind of helps me keep this thing in place as I slowly but surely size it down. And now I'm going to hit M on my keyboard to bring up the rectangle tool. You can also go over to your toolbar and just click and hold on that and make sure you have your rectangle tool selected. And as you can see right here, if I go over this point on the bottom here, it'll tell me that I'm over the anchor because I have my smart guides on. So I'm going to go from this anchor to this anchor right here. It's drawing this vertical green line right now to let me know I'm over it, and start drawing my downward area of the fuselage right here. I'm just going to zoom out really quick here and then reselect this with the direct selection tool, which is V on your keyboard or the black arrow. And then I'm just going to select this bottom box right here and drag this down to scale it up a little bit and create the main body of this airplane right here until I think it gets pretty close to what I'm trying to achieve. And I don't need these lines on the top and the bottom, so I'm going to hit C on my keyboard to bring up the scissors tool. And it is also right here on your toolbar. It looks like a pair of scissors, as you might expect. And with the scissors tool selected, I'm just going to click on this line right here on the top. I'm going to click on the line on the bottom here, which will make 2 points. There are cuts on these lines, so that's what that's doing. And then I'm going to hit A on my keyboard to bring up the direct selection tool, which is the white arrow. If you want to select that on your toolbar manually, you can do that instead of hitting A. And I'm just going to click off this shape really quick and then click and drag over these 2 points that I just made. So this one on the top here, I'm going to click and drag over that and then hit my delete button or my backspace button to delete that. I'm going to do the same one on the bottom here. You can either hit delete or backspace, which will remove that. So now we have this shape right here cut out, so it's just 2 lines. You could of course just draw a vertical line too as a path if you want to do it that way. This is just my typical way of working. So now that the fuselage is drawn right here, I'm going to highlight over just this top point that we previously drew. And I'm going to hold down my Alt button on a PC or Option on a Mac and click and start dragging this down. And as I'm dragging it down, I'm also going to hold Shift so it stays on this perfect vertical plane. And as I let go right here, after holding Alt or Option when dragging, you can tell that it duplicates this shape. And I'm going to select this shape right here and highlight kind of over the middle here until I see these little arrows that stand for rotate, which you can probably see on the screen right now. It's a little bit hard since I'll do it on the bottom, it's easier to see. The little arrow turns to these 2 arrows pointing left and right, letting you know if the rotate tool is up. So I'm going to click on that and then hold Shift as I do this so it maintains its nice and perfect 180-degree rotation here. By holding Shift, it just stays on these nice 45-degree angles until it flips around right here. I'm just going to drag this down a little bit. And then I'm going to actually bring up the direct selection tool again again because as you can tell, this shape that I made for this top nose doesn't quite match this much longer shape at the bottom here. So I'm going to hit A again to bring up the direct selection tool or the white arrow. I'm going to highlight over this bottom point right here, and then as I drag it down, I'm going to hold shift so it stays on the same vertical plane as I've talked about before until I get the shape relatively close to what I think this looks like. This isn't an exact match, but I think it's close enough for what we're trying to do here. And I'm just going to zoom in by hitting Control plus or Command plus on a Mac, and Command minus is zoom out, so that's a quick way to zoom in and out. And then I'm going to go to my black arrow once again, which is V on your keyboard for the selection tool, and highlight over this end right here until it says anchor, and then click and hold shift as I drag this up until I get to the intersection of these two different lines right here. And as you can tell, it brought a line, a green line, let me know that I hit that point. So now I want to join this shape together, and to do that, use the direct selection tool, which is A on your keyboard, the white arrow, and each of these 4 points, so we got a point at the top left and then the top right and then the bottom left and the bottom right where these shapes meet up together. Just highlight over those, right click, and then go to join, and then do the same thing for each one of these sides, which will let you join all these different intersecting points together until we have one solid shape. If it gives you some kind of a weird error message, just make sure that things are lining up right and that nothing is grouped together or there's no clipping masks, which if you did this just the way I did it, that shouldn't happen to you. But if for some reason that does happen, that's probably the reason why. And I'm just going to use my black arrow or selection tool to move this over to the side a little bit so we can start drawing the wings. So I'm actually just going to use the rectangle tool, which is M on your keyboard. It looks like a rectangle on your toolbar here. And on the airplane here, I'm just going to draw a wing that's roughly the size of the wing on this photo right here that I'm referencing. Once again, don't worry about being absolutely perfect. Just try to get it relatively close. And then you can use your white arrow or the direct selection tool, which is A on your keyboard, to start selecting these points and then holding shift as you move it up or down to make sure it maintains this vertical point, and try to get the wings matching a pretty similar shape to what you see on your image. And if you're not using a reference image at all, you can just kind of draw this as you see fit until the shape lines up a little bit closer with what you're trying to achieve here. And you can, like what you see me doing right here, is you can select multiple points if you want and then move them both at one time if they're both selected using this tool, if that's the way you want to work. And if you look at the wings on this airplane, these kind of come in at a little bit different angle as you get a little bit closer here. So to do that, I'm just going to hit the plus sign on my keyboard, which is the add anchor point tool. And if you hover over your pen tool, which looks like this normally on your toolbar, just click and hold and then go to add anchor point tool. You can use that to add an anchor point anywhere on a path. So I'm just going to click and add an anchor point right here, and that'll add a new anchor point that we can then manipulate using the direct selection tool or white arrow. Just hit the A button on your keyboard to select that, and then you can select whatever point on this line that you want. If you just click somewhere on your line, it'll bring up a view of all the different points. So I want this point right here. So I'm just going to click and hold that and then drag it down while holding shift to make this a nice vertical plane until we get that kind of unique shape that this particular wing has. So I'm just going to quickly kind of make this wing look a little bit closer like it does in the image. But once again, I'm not fretting a whole bunch about making this exactly perfect. I'm just trying to get the general idea of the wing to be pretty similar to what we're looking at right here. As long as the end result looks pretty close to what we're trying to achieve here, we should be pretty good to go. So I'm just going to move this in a little bit. And then sometimes too, when I'm moving stuff around, I just hold my arrow keys, either the up and down or the left and right arrow keys on the keyboard after I've selected a point, because it's a little bit faster for me to work that way. And now the same thing's going to apply to the tail section right here. So once again, I'm going to go back to the rectangle tool, which is M on your keyboard, or you can select it in the toolbar. And I'm just going to quickly draw a rectangle right here, trying to match up a little bit with the general size and shape of this wing on the tail section of the plane right here. And then I'm going to hit A on my keyboard for that white arrow or direct selection tool and start manipulating this shape around until we get it to be a little bit closer to what we're trying to do. But first, I'm going to hit C on my keyboard on this right side line right here to make a point, and then I'm going to hit A on my keyboard for the direct selection tool and just kind of click off this, and then highlight over this once again to select these 2 points, and then hit backspace or delete to remove them so you don't get some weird line interactions as these things overlap. And then I'm going to click and hold shift as I select this point right here and kind of drag it onto the airplane to make my own line right here. So this isn't matching up quite right, and I'll just keep on moving this around until I think it looks a little bit better. And as you can tell, as I grab a line right here from the anchor point and move along the path of this tail end of the plane, it lets me know that I'm on that path, and that's a cool part about the smart guides, is it always lets you know when you're over a path, so you're not guessing, trying to figure out if you're properly on top of it or not. It kind of saves you a little bit of time in the long run. And once again, I'm not going to worry about getting this thing super perfect. I just want it to be pretty close so that everything looks the way I expect it to as I kind of move into the final stages of drawing this airplane right here. I'm just going to move this in a little bit more. And as you can tell, this new drawing is matching up pretty closely to the one I did previously right here. And the last thing I have to do is just these engines. And then I can actually just group this all and then just reflect it and add it to the other side right here to save a little bit of time. So the engines were kind of interesting to draw because they have a pretty unique shape in that they come down and then down an angle and then over again. So there's a few ways you can go ahead and do this. Probably the quickest way to do this is just drawing it using the pen tool. So right now I have the pen tool selected. It's P as a keyboard shortcut. And just click and make a point somewhere and then hold shift and make another point, which will be the first line that we're drawing. And then I want to come in just a little bit right here to kind of match this little inward sloping angle that this engine has. So I'm just going to click a little bit inside here so that this isn't a perfect vertical line. It kind of comes in a little bit. And then using the selection tool, which is the black arrow, I'm going to click on this new path that we just drew, and then hold Alt on a PC or Option on a Mac, and then just click and drag it over while holding Shift. And then on this new path that's selected that we just duplicated, I'm going to right click and then go to Transform and then Reflect. And we want to reflect it vertically, which kind of flips it on the vertical plane. If you select horizontal, it flips it on the horizontal plane, which is kind of an easy way of remembering that. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this and make sure that these look pretty similar to the size of these engines right here, which I think this is close enough for me. And then I'm going to hit A on my keyboard for that white arrow or direct selection tool and just highlight over these top 2 points, right click, and then go to Join, which adds this line up at the top here, and do the same for the bottom until we have a solid shape that looks pretty good to me. This is a pretty close representation. I'm actually going to highlight over this entire thing after hitting V to bring up the black arrow or selection tool and just stretch it vertically just a little bit so it looks a little bit closer to this one right here, and then find a nice place for it on the wing until I think it's matching up pretty decently to how it looks on this drawing right here. And you can of course adjust things as you see fit. And if you want to hide this overlap on the wing right here, you can just give this the white fill. So right now my fill is empty, but if I double click on this and bring my color up to white right here and fill it in white, you can now get a better idea of how this looks without that overlapping line. And you can go ahead and resize this or readjust this as you see fit. It's kind of up to you if you want to make small tweaks and changes as you work. I tend to do that quite a lot, but everyone works a little bit differently. So now we have essentially a half-finished airplane, but this part is really fast. So all you got to do to finish up your airplane right here is use the selection tool, which is V on your keyboard or the black arrow, select everything, and then hold Alt on a PC or Option on a Mac, and then click and drag this off to the right side here. As you're dragging, hold Shift to keep it on the same horizontal plane so everything's nice and lined up, and then let go when you're done. And then to flip it over, just right click this. Once again, go to Transform, Reflect, and then we want to do that once again on the vertical plane. So we're reflecting on the vertical plane. And then just move this over while holding Shift. And actually to make sure this lines up perfectly with my plane right here, I'm going to click on this path of the wing right here. And then as I'm dragging, I'm holding Shift to keep it on the perfect line right here until it matches this wing right here on the side. And once that overlaps right here and it looks pretty good, I should be good to go on this. And once again, to zoom in and out very quickly, just use the Control plus or minus, or on a Mac use Command plus and minus, which is just a fast way to zoom in and out. So now we have the basic idea of this airplane done and ready to go. So I'm going to show you a quick way to make a solid silhouette just like this one right here if you want to do that, or a little bit slower way, but actually the best way of making this line drawing like this one right here if that's something you want to accomplish. So I'm just going to click and move these out of the way, and then I'm going to use my selection tool to highlight this entire thing. Just hold Alt and then Shift and drag this off to the side to duplicate it. And I'm going to do that once again so I can show you how to do the solid one, the entirely solid airplane. So if you want to do an entirely solid silhouette like this one right here, it's really fast to make that happen. I'm just going to select everything once again with my selection tool. And this time I'm going to go to my fill right here and just apply a black color to it. So I'm just going to double click on this fill, which has a question mark right now because it's part transparent and part white. I'm going to double click on that and then bring it down to the bottom left here to make it completely black and hit OK. And as you can see right here, we now have a full silhouette of this airplane. To make it one solid complete color though, that's not a bunch of different shapes, you go to Object and then Expand, and then you want to expand the fill and stroke. Once again, that's Object and then Expand, and then just make sure you have fill and stroke selected and then hit OK. And then to make this thing all one shape, so it's not a bunch of different expanded shapes, you want to make sure your Pathfinder window is open, which is right here on my screen, and you can go to Window and then Window and then Pathfinder kind of near the middle of the bottom here, and that'll bring up this Pathfinder window. You want to select everything that you've just expanded, this entire airplane, and then under shape modes, the top left one is called Unite. You just want to click that, And now when I move this object around, you can tell that it's one shape. And alternatively, if I want to make this instead of a solid silhouette like you see right here, if I want to make this just one outline, I can use the flip button right here on my stroke and fill to flip the black stroke and the transparent fill to have a transparent fill and a black stroke. And then I can go over to my stroke window right here and make this a much larger size to make this a little bit easier to see. So there we have a fully outlined and stroked version of this airplane that you could use as an icon. Or once again, if I want to make this a solid black fill, just go to my fill and stroke and once again hit this swapped arrow button right here. It looks like an arrow pointing left and then an arrow pointing down. Just click on that. It flips it really fast and easy. Alternatively, if you want to do just a line drawing, but let's say you didn't want these engines to have this white fill in them, you want to have a little bit more pure drawing, I'm just going to remove the white fill from both of these. A quick and easy way to do that is I'm actually going to select over this wing using my selection tool, which is the black arrow. Select this wing and select this wing right here. If you hold shift as you select multiple things, you'll select multiple things at once. I'm going to right click, go to arrange, bring to front. So then my wings are now on top of these engines, although you can't really tell that since it's a transparency, but they are. So I'm going to hit C on my keyboard for that cut tool. And as I go over the intersecting line between this engine and this wing line, you can tell that my Smart Guides brings up something that says intersect as I'm right over these 2 points. So I'm going to click right here, which will make a cut on this wing line that goes over this engine. I'm going to do the same thing on this side, which will cut this. I'm just going to hit backspace or delete. And you actually have to hit it twice to remove everything. There's usually like a little straggler point that stays as you do that. So hitting it twice just make sure you remove everything. And I'm just going to do the same thing on this one right here, which went ahead and deleted the outside sections in this case. So I just want to select this inside section by just clicking and dragging and highlighting over that inside section and hitting delete or backspace twice to remove all the points. So now we have this fully removed. And at this time, if I want to, I can highlight over this entire thing and hit Control G on a PC or Command G on a Mac to go ahead and group this object I just made, so that way this will always stay together. So if you want a little bit more complex line drawing like this, that's one way of doing it. Otherwise, like I showed before, you can use the other method to go ahead and very quickly combine everything into a solid silhouetted thing like this with just the fill. I could also click on the stroke right here, add a stroke, and then let's say if I want to make a little bit of a rounded stroke, I can go ahead and just click on the corner that says round join and make this weight a little bit thicker. So now we have the nice rounded edges on this airplane as you see. Or if you want this to be just a stroke, you can just go ahead and click on the fill, hit the none button. That's the white box with a red arrow going through it. And now we just have a fully stroked outline of this airplane. But that's really it for this tutorial. Like I said before, this should apply to any kind of icon that you want to make in general. Just make sure to apply the general rule of keeping things simple. Try to work smart with your different shapes and try to keep things as clean and as simple as you can. And then the end result that you create should be a much more iconic and easy to figure out kind of thing as you go ahead and make it much smaller. So I'm going to quickly just go to Object, expand this rounded stroke line, and then unite it like I showed before and make this a whole lot smaller. So you can tell that even at very small scale, this airplane icon tends to hold up pretty well and it's still recognizable for what it is. But hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you did, please like and favorite. And if you want to see more stuff like this every week, please subscribe. I do my best to keep on creating new content just like this for illustrators and designers. Thanks so much for watching. Once again, thanks for watching this tutorial, and don't forget to check out our sponsor for this particular tutorial of webdesignernews.com. Just go to www.webdesignernews.com where you can find a huge and constantly updated selection of different articles and websites and different inspiration points for web designers and designers in general. As you can tell here, there's over 229 pages of different articles and websites for you to go in and check out. And there's a really huge selection of different things, so no matter what your flair in design is, you might find something really interesting here to go in and check out. Once again, the website is www.webdesignernews.com, so feel free to go there and check it out and support these videos by doing that.